Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The Outer Realm in the category of Best Female Hosted Podcast. The Outer Realm is a very popular show hosted by Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, which boasts millions of listeners each week who are well known for and have been complimented on their very laid-back, roundtable style of interviewing. Together, this dynamic duo brings you the best of the best with guests from around the world who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, esoteric, and other areas of high strangeness, and more. So go to podcastawards.com to nominate The Outer Realm in the category Best Female Hosted Podcast. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and do it now.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3, 107.7 from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey since the absolute very beginning. So thank you, Folgers. Amelia and I appreciate you so very much, and we just couldn't do it without you. Also truly grateful and honored for Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker, aka the Sonic Surgeon, who is the voice and the music of our intro and outro. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite streaming platforms. Also, extending a big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind all of our banners and logos here at the show. So check him out on Facebook and Instagram. He's also, his area of expertise is horror genre, and he's got some really fantastic stuff. But realistically, he can do anything, and he does beautiful, beautiful artwork. So check him out. So tonight, we welcome for the very first time, Kim Moser, all the way from the East Coast of Canada. She's a paranormal investigator. She's been to some pretty impressive locations, and some of you guys will all know she is what she calls herself to be a storyteller, and she's been doing that for a really long time. She's also very active in media, especially out in the East Coast. But she's going to be, and this is why we're going to pick her brain, one of the guest speakers at the Halifax Paranormal Symposium on October the 7th. So you're getting an opportunity to at least see some of the guests that are going to be here. And if you'd like to know more about them or check them out yourself, then you can go to the symposium if you're able to get there. So anyway, Bubbles, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right, man. You know, it's Thursday. It's Thursday. Woo.
Thursday. It's Friday Eve.
It is Friday Eve.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
that.
Friday Eve.
Wayne. Hoo-hoo. Hello. Oh, yeah. And our guest is here. Look at that, guys. See, that's very prompt.
Wow. That's psychic.
I know.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing so well. How are you both?
Well,
Good,
better
thank
now.
Yeah.
I like that so well. It's like
prompt. I love it.
I was about ready to gripe about my day, but now I can't.
Well, actually, I'm all ears. So if you want to, go for it.
Oh my God.
It's
a curly hair day. I'll gripe about that.
I know.
Curly hair day driving me crazy.
Yes. I had to move my office and studio around. So that's never fun because, from downstairs to upstairs. And so we have a family member moving in, and, I got ousted. So I got ousted to the upper levels. Like, thanks for that, but it's okay. It's a nicer room. I'll take it.
Long as the AC
There you
reaches you.
go.
I know.
You're
I
good.
know. Doesn't matter who you are, or especially you think you are. There's always somebody over there who overrules you. So anyway, how are you?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. We've been looking forward to it. And of course, Elliot has, been Ducin. For all those you guys wondering, who's been on the show several times, made mention that you were, of course, part of the symposium. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys all a big plug right here. So 1 second. Let's just share this up. Here you go, Elliot. This one's just for you. Just for you. There we are.
He's on in a couple of weeks. 3 weeks.
They are.
Yeah.
Going to come and banter. All right,
Yeah.
there we go. There we go. All right. So I know. I know. So it's going to be pretty exciting. Of course, the Outer Realm is one of the symposium sponsors. So we're very, very honored to do that. This is going to be a really amazing event because Elliot's a really amazing guy and everybody putting it together and coming together and all of you guys, you guests. Let me see if I can get another one up here. Probably won't let me. But I want to show you guys all. Now we'll show that as we go along again. So you are from the East Coast of Canada.
I am. Yeah.
And dare you say, are you allowed to say which part of?
Oh, of course. Yeah. So I'm from Halifax area, Nova Scotia, Canada.
Right.
And I have to tell you right now, I am obsessed with New Orleans.
Oh.
We're not in New Orleans.
Yeah.
You're not?
We stream
we're
out
in
of New
Ontario.
Orleans. We stream out of New Orleans. Yeah.
Got you. Okay.
Yes.
Well,
No.
I very much love it there. I
Yes.
travel to the States often, and that's one of my favorite cities.
Our producer will love to hear that. We have yet to go there.
I know. Our producer's there. He's just, and that's where the studio is. That's where the FM bands are. So, of course, with modern technology, we don't have to go very far, So
Exactly.
we came out of an actual radio station studio
It was the pandemic.
during early pandemic days. And yeah, and then,
It's kind of hard to go into a station when you're in lockdown and you're not allowed on the road.
I know. And I've known him for a million years. So I said, okay, let's just do this. And
That's fun. That's great.
It's been a lot of fun.
It's perfect for me because I'm the one who had the 1 hour drive. So for me, it's perfect. Now I just walk into the next room.
That is amazing. That is like the shortest trip to work for most people.
Right. I think it's very common nowadays too, though.
Yeah.
But anyways, how excited are you?
I am beyond right now. I am so excited to have, a little group of people here that we can chat all things weird and paranormal.
Yes.
I especially love that. So, we're in good company. So where would you like to start? I mean, I know for myself, jumping into the paranormal, it doesn't just happen. I mean, it usually starts from childhood experiences or that one experience in your life that leaves you wanting more. So how did it start for you?
You are 100% correct in saying that. I think the more I reach out to people and connect with people that are involved in the paranormal, whether they're researchers or investigators, there's always something not necessarily traumatic, but sometimes that's the case. Or, the death of a loved one or somebody who was really close to you. And then that sort of leaves you looking for answers and trying to find out more about the afterlife. And it's a weird start to, starting a career or starting, doing a little bit more research in this sort of field, but it's a really common thread that a lot of us have. So my, as far back as I can go in my memory, when I first started to read, my mom probably thought I was the creepy kid because I was always wanting to read books.
What's wrong with you? You get it from your father. It's always from the father.
Yeah. So I was always, looking for like new age books. I was always looking for, we live very close to the water here and there's a lot of maritime related ghost stories. So I was always trying to find out, fun little stories, things that would keep me up at night. But the one pivotal moment for me was My grandmother, who I was very close to, she was living in a nursing home, probably about 2 miles away from where I was living at the time. And we knew that her health wasn't great, but we really had no idea when she was about to cross over or anything. And my mom had been in to see her a couple of days prior, and she was like, Kim, you should probably go visit her. I just have this weird feeling, kind of thing. So I had my best friend and her boyfriend over. It was a Friday night, and we were up late playing cards, and I looked at my best friend. I was like, it's time for me to go to bed. And she's like, I'm not far behind. So us girls went to bed. She went to bed in the guest bedroom. I went to bed in my bedroom. And then when my boyfriend at the time walked into the room, he walked into me waking up, but I was crying. And he was like, what's wrong with you? Like, I've never seen you like this before. Did you have a bad dream? And I was like, my grandmother, I called her Mimi. I said, she's gone. And he
Oh.
said, how do you know that? And I said, well, I had this really vivid dream, and she was in an all white background. There were hundreds of people there. We were all kind of standing around in a very small circle, just as if you would be at a party. And she looked at me and she said, I'm going now, dear. And I said, okay, Mimi, I love you, just like as if she was leaving the party. And she's like, I love you too. And the intimate feelings that I had, because I could smell her, I could touch her, I could see her perfectly. I could see her in this one of her favorite outfits. And so anyway, my boyfriend was like, no, bad dream, go back to bed. So anyway, finally I went back to sleep, but it was about 7 o'clock in the morning when my mom called me. And she said, I'm calling you to let you know that your grandmother passed away last night, which was her mother.
Right.
And I said,
Hard.
Mom, I already know. And I know this is really strange. And she said, how do you know? And I said, well, you know how I am with my dreams. My dreams are often really weird. And she's like, yeah. I said, well, she came to me in a dream. And she said, well, what time was the dream? I said, I don't know, but I woke up at 1:30. And she said, well, somebody was with her when she passed, and she passed between 1:15 and 1:30. And I was like, that is crazy.
Wow.
So of course, having that like really huge coincidence happen, I was automatically like, what can I learn about dreams and how people who are crossing over can communicate? And that's when I started to learn that, it isn't just dreams that people can communicate with people who are
Right,
passing. It's so many other ways, but that seems to be the really big thing for me. Sometimes I have these like little blips in my mind, and I think of somebody that I haven't thought of in years and years and years. And then the next thing I know is see them at the grocery store, or, little coincidences like that. But it's the
Right.
dreams that really get me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, I that's so normal. I mean, now I won't say it's normal, not for everybody, but I think, like, how old were you when this happened?
I would have been about 21 or 22.
Okay, that because it's so common in children.
Yes.
But I mean, I think as you get older, like maybe I know Amelia's always happened, I might get a lot of visitations, but that sort of a visitation has only happened to me once in my life where, I think you just grieve so hard. And then all of a sudden it's like I woke up crying and I just knew, and I was in full grief. And the next morning, my best friend of 30 years, her husband called and said, oh, she passed away at this time. And I was like, I just kept it to myself because he probably already thought I was a weirdo anyway. So I just sat there and went, oh, well, that's pretty interesting,
Yeah.
But so that's what started it all for you.
That's what started it all. And I mean, I went to university, and I, had a we'll say normal career, but I was into sales and things for years. And it wasn't until the last 3 years that I had a chance to switch careers and actually do something professionally regarding the paranormal, which is really great. But it's always kind of been in the back of my mind. About 5 years ago, my friend and I came up with a podcast, which I don't do anymore. I just don't seem to have the time. But that really got me into researching more, doing some investigations, having a lot more fun with it. And then it turned out to be, well, now you're going to be an investigator on a television series.
Right.
And then that turned into some other TV shows and things
It
like that.
does. It's a snowball effect.
It is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know. I like the podcast. It would be hard to give it up. I
It's a
mind
lot
you
of
what?
work.
It is. I actually
We're
went
on
on
2 nights a
hiatus.
week.
Yeah, it's true. I put all my film after 2 decades of filming. I put it all on hold. I still consult. I'll still do documentaries, but I love the podcast. I
That's
love it.
amazing.
I do. I love it because we get to meet people like you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I love it because I always say we learn from everybody who comes on, and whether it's just from extraordinary experiences or areas of expertise. And paranormal is really hard when they say, "Oh, you're an expert in what?" You can't even explain half this stuff,
Yeah.
right?
It's
But-
like saying an expert in science that doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
sure is fun.
And the other really cool thing I find about the paranormal is, a lot of people started as skeptics, but then they have this one profound experience that they can't explain.
Yeah.
And then they're like, there's more to this. But it's
That's
really hard to convince somebody who is a skeptic, who hasn't had any weird experiences, that the paranormal is a real thing.
I don't even bother with that anymore. I don't bother. I mean, I've had this gift my whole life, so it's just I don't bother. I figure if they're a skeptic, there's a reason for it. Maybe in a past life, maybe they were traumatized, maybe they have a lot of fear, or maybe they just, it's just not of interest, and that's okay. I always say to them, I'm not here to try to convince you of anything.
Me too. I don't
Yeah.
want to try to convince them.
No,
Just let things
no.
happen on their own. And if they happen,
Yeah.
cool. If they don't, that's fine.
They always end up having the experiences, though. I
It's
find the
true.
skeptics
People who-
usually have them, and I've done like that. I don't do readings, but where I get a message and and I've relayed it, and they're just dumbfounded by it, and I'm like, that's how sometimes it's the right timing, right? With everything, the synchronicity, like Mike says, it has to be the right time for them to hear it, so it's going to happen when it needs to happen. But yeah,
Mhm.
skeptics can be exhausting.
Yeah.
They can be. And I agree with you too. It's like the people who don't like cats, the cats always go to them, right?
But you
Yeah.
have to always look at both sides of the coin. I mean, we're in a field that is very, like I said, it's not easily explained away. And I always go through what I call the process of elimination. And if it comes up with a question mark, it just leaves more room for experiences and more research. At least you can't just shrug it away. I love having that question mark come up at the end of it all because you have to be logical. But for mediums, it's tough too because you pick up on something, and I'm almost like trying to debunk myself, and I'm always the one everybody comes to with information. So I look at that as well. For me, it's contaminated information. I can't really touch it. All I can do is investigate it, and that's why I work with other mediums, and because it's always been that way. And then you just go through everything and go, okay, well, that's interesting because I have no explanation. So
Yeah.
it's tough, but I've worked with diehard skeptics.
It works the same way for the medium and investigators. They don't, a medium doesn't want the information either.
Mhm.
That's so true. Yeah.
Won't want the information.
Yeah.
I want a photo, especially if it's a crime, but I don't want any information. If I want it, I'll ask you. My dog's knocking shit down. I'll ask him.
All
He's
right.
blind and 15.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
so
know.
like even though I have a light on, he's partially blind. He's almost blind on one side, so he keeps walking into things. But anyways, yeah, it's you don't want to know. How do you know if it's accurate?
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
You want it untouched, right?
So, Amelia, when you have things come to you from a photo, are there certain things that pop out a little bit more that you're like, okay, this is no longer my brain sort of coming up with something creative. This is coming from an outside source.
It's never coming from me. I think Michelle can tell you that. It's because we work together on malevolent cases. It's never coming from me. Half of the stuff when I started working with Michelle, I didn't even know what I was talking about. I've always done
No,
crime.
she hadn't been in the
So
paranormal field for more than just like a couple of years, if that,
not
I
even,
think.
not
Not
even. I was
even.
always doing crime,
Yeah.
for a
It's
good,
so I had
yeah.
to say, do this, do this, do this, do this. And because she RVs, right? And it's just like us, she's like, what is that
I
freaking
didn't know I was an RV. I
thing?
didn't know I
Yeah,
could do that. I
yeah.
just thought that's the way I read. I
Mhm.
had no idea that's what I was doing until I worked with a team for missing children. That's most of my work that I've done. But no, I don't know what demons look like. I took a small demonology course, nothing expensive. It was, just a beginner course to familiarize myself with it. And I was always afraid to finish it. I'm like, this stuff scares the crap out of me. I don't want to do this.
Because maybe they're
And
aliens,
oh,
interdimensional beings,
yeah. I don't want anything to do
This
with
is
that
the fun
either.
part, though, right? It's just the exploration as to what everything actually
Sure. Um,
is.
sure.
It's an
Yeah,
ongoing
no,
debate.
the
Yeah.
photos, everything that is supposed to come out, I had to learn to trust myself. And I think any medium who is practicing and wants to be able to do that, or even what's it called, to what's it called when you can hold and see, I don't even know what they're called, but I know I can do them.
Telekinesis?
No, I can't do
No.
that I do know, because if I could, phew, I got a list. But when you're holding an object in your hands and you can pick up on things, that was something that was very intrusive in my life. So I had to
Okay.
learn to psychometry.
Psychometry.
Thank you.
I
I had
know.
to
You're taking
learn
brain
to,
stuff.
yeah, well, menopause. But anyways,
Ah,
I blame it on everything. But anyways, yeah, that was that kind of thing. But I think it's really important to trust yourself. And I know you can do that too.
Me, yes.
Yes.
I honestly, I have struggled with that for the past couple of years, learning to trust myself.
It's a
Um,
hard one.
it is a really
Yeah.
hard one, and I like to think of myself as being a logical thinker. So when, something pops up, I'm like, "Oh, it's because I, you know, ate popcorn yesterday." But,
I
Backwards.
do
I always
that
try
Yeah.
too.
to figure it
Oh,
out.
I had a piece of salami before I went to bed, so that dream can't be real. Once
Yeah,
you start trusting yourself, it's just gonna flood in. Don't hold yourself back.
right.
Okay? Don't hold yourself back. You're really good at what you do. So
Well, thank you.
I wish you're welcome. I wish that, I had that confidence sooner. It was tough, but it's how I learned in the beginning was photos, and then it became easier. But trusting myself also comes with working with someone like Michelle who validates everything. When you work with police officers or the FBI, you don't receive validations. They don't give you information. They take information.
That's right. Yeah.
You
Mm.
don't receive anything. Murder cases can run for years. So, yeah.
Mhm.
Unless
Yeah.
you're watching that court case a few years later, then you're like, like Dylan Redwine. That one I can talk about because I did not sign an NDA for. When I saw everything come up in court, I just died. But never got validation for these big cases.
Wow. So how long was the time period of you actually doing the work and then you seeing the validation for it?
Dylan came to me because it was in the city of a group that I was working with who go boots on the ground looking for children, hopefully rescuing, not recovery. Anyways, it came to me days after it happened, and his dad was just charged right before the new year, I believe. So
That's so sad.
that's a good 8-9 years,
Wow.
I believe, with
Mm.
Dylan, because I think it was 2014 or 2015, and the charges just went through. I'm part of their Facebook group as well, and they shared it with everyone because he got to appeal and stuff like that. The kicker with that case was that Dr. Phil actually brought him on the show to give him a polygraph, and he wouldn't take it. Your son's missing. Why wouldn't you take the polygraph?
No way.
Yeah, it was so obvious. We're like, you need to do something with him that puts him in a light, because you're never going to get anything out of him.
Right.
His one witness was the mail lady. Well, he was having a little fling. I was going to say it a lot more crude, but having a little fling with that.
It was a family show.
It's a family show. So is Dr. Phil, but man, a lot came out.
Yeah, we're more family. So yeah.
He kept fudging it. He drank the night before. You're not supposed to drink when you have within 24 hours of polygraph. He said no, he wouldn't take it. And it just went on and on.
Wow.
Yeah, it's frightening.
Yeah. He killed his son.
That
Those
is
are the
so,
type of people that should
so
rot.
awful.
Should rot. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's scary. That's
And
scary stuff.
Yeah.
But you've had experiences yourself where people come to you and your dreams and give you messages.
Yes.
Not loved ones. You don't know who they are.
Right. Yeah.
So you second guess those messages, or
sometimes I did have one. I think it kind of goes in like waves. There's some days where I'm like, it's probably nothing. And then there's other days where it just feels so strong. It's like, I need to write this down. I have no idea what this means right now. Yeah. However, somebody else will. Right. So I was working with a girl, and she was my host for one of my shows that we're doing, and it's all about fashion. And so we were going into some local stores in Halifax and talking to the store owners and all that kind of stuff. And so her grandfather had quite a close connection with her, and she always looked at him as being, a really great masculine figure in her life. And this one night before we were going out to film, I had this dream, and it was about this man from Scotland. He was showing me this landscape and buildings that reminded me of Scotland. And he was just kind of sitting back watching her do her work, being on television, and he didn't want to get in the way, but ultimately he ended up sitting on a bench underneath of an apple tree and just sat there and watched her and was just like beaming. And so anyway, the next day happens. She was getting her makeup on, and I called her and I was like, "Do you have your eye makeup done yet?" And she's like, "No, why?" And I said, "Well, I told you I get these dreams sometimes. If you're up for listening to it, then I'll tell you the story." So I told her what happened in the dream, and she was immediately bawling. And she was like, "Kim, last night I cried in my car because I missed him so much and I needed his guidance. And I told him that I needed him." And she's like, "So the fact that you had a dream about him last night is incredible." Wow. And then when I told her about the apple trees, she said, "Yeah, back home." And he was from Scotland, but they lived in the Caribbean. And she said, back home in the Caribbean, he was always outside with his fruit trees. So that makes sense to me.
Oh.
So where he was Scottish, he had a Scottish last name, which also had a tartan tied to it. So we go to the location, we're getting set up. We look at the main table that's right in the middle of, it was like a vintage store. So we looked at the main table. There was his last name's tartan sitting on the table. And I said, if that's not proof, I don't know what is. So she ended up buying the scarf, and she was, she had another little mini meltdown about it. But that was one thing that I was so happy that I could get confirmation for. It just felt so much stronger than other dreams that I've had.
You gave her comfort.
Right. Yeah.
That's the most important part.
Well, the guidance came through you.
Yeah.
Right? Through your message. It's funny how the spirit world works.
They look for the light.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so this is a question that I have for you guys, since you guys are very well versed in all of this stuff. How does a spirit connect to somebody that might have an ability that somehow has a connection in the living world to somebody else? Are you saying it is light? They see the light?
That's how I perceive it. I perceive it us light workers, and we're a beacon, and they know, and they instinctively know. And they're drawn to us because of a connection we have with someone else, or someone that may be coming into our lives. You don't have to know the person.
Well, also because spirits will even go to children, because children have such a bright light, and children don't understand that, like what the spirit wants. They're too young. There's no life skills. They don't know, to tell them to go away. They don't know how to help them move over. I think if you're gifted, and you are that light in the darkness. But I do agree with what Amelia says. There's a reason they'll come to you. A lot of spirits will, piggyback off other spirits, for example. So let's say you're giving a reading to someone. All of a sudden, there's some spirit piggybacking on that reading. I've seen that happen so many times. You really want to learn a lot about spirituality, you need to go to Lilydale. Go over the summer months. They've got like some phenomenal speakers. You can go and learn. Like, it's the largest spiritual community this side of the world in upstate New York. It's where, I would always go to decompress, like literally as much as possible. I know a lot of people there, but you see it because they do a lot of open forum readings. And all of a sudden you just see this other spirit just hijack the entire freaking reading. And because like, hey, I've got something I want to say, because maybe that person is sitting in the forum somewhere.
Or someone
Right.
And you need that reading, but someone is sitting there.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's many different reasons as to why they come through, or how they come through. They get very creative, or showing up at the end of your bed in the middle of the night. It's like,
Can I share this one?
Yeah.
I swear this will be it. My baby cousin got married. She was having her stag and doe. And I said, okay, I don't do readings, but put it up so that you can raise some money. The lady that won it for her sister-in-law who lost her son. She said, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to buy the ticket because so-and-so really needs this reading. And she won.
Wow.
See?
That's beautiful.
So that's what I mean by, I was so happy to have been able to do that.
Yeah. They always find a way, So, let's talk about haunted investigations. Let's talk about some of your best ones, the ones that stand out the most. So you obviously would have started out at home, and I know there's a lot of amazing places out east.
There really are. I mean, we don't have a really, really deep history that goes back. Halifax itself was founded in 1749, and
that's old for Canada.
That's old for Canada.
It is pretty old for Canada. Yeah. We'll give it that.
Right.
And I mean, it was a port city, so there was lots of rum running and lots of people doing bad things.
Right.
And I mean, you guys know there's this connection with water and it being this great conductor of energy.
Yes.
So there's lots of wonderful places. And then, of course, we have a lot of sad moments too. When, if you talk about the Fortress of Louisbourg, it was essentially New France. And then the British came and took it. And then the French got it back. And then the British finally were like, okay, we're done with this. So they set fire to everything. There's quite a few wars that happened on that land in particular. Essentially, I think it was around 1960 is when people decided that they were going to start doing archaeology there. And they were going to start looking at some of the rubble and seeing if maybe they could start rebuilding some of these homes. So it turned out that they ended up rebuilding about a third or a quarter of what Louisbourg used to be. But that is a substantial spot. It gives me very similar feelings to when I visit New Orleans. It's almost like when you're walking down the streets, you get taken into a different time. So you're surrounded by fog and you're surrounded by all of these sort of like rubble looking foundations and some reconstructed places. But you just have, I was saying this to one of my friends earlier today. It's like you're walking down the street in Louisbourg and you're wearing modern clothes. And it's like you don't see the spirits, but you know they're there, and you know that they're all staring at you like, who the heck is this person, right?
I know. They're from the future. I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Louisbourg just has this really insane feeling when you go. And I've had the opportunity to investigate there. I think it's 3 times. And every time I go, it's something different. Like somebody on our team will see somebody wearing a red uniform and there's nobody on site except us. Or, we'll see these really strange light anomalies.
Nice.
Or I'll go into the chapel and I'll all of a sudden start feeling this electric feeling coming up through the back of my legs and then just crying for no reason. So that's definitely one of my favorite spots, but
Right.
it wouldn't necessarily be my most adrenaline rushing moment investigating.
Right.
When I started investigating, I definitely had more of a wall up than I do now. I'm still very cautious. I still, have my little rituals when I'm all done investigating.
Right.
Yeah.
However, this one instance shook me because I thought to myself, and I think it was just me being able to get through the night. I was like, ghosts can't harm you. Ghosts can't touch you. Ghosts, no, they can't pick up a knife. They can't come after you with a knife and stab you. There's no way. So I had this sort of concept in my
I
head
was
that
just sitting there laughing.
I
Yeah.
was untouchable.
Psychokinesis could do that, dead or alive, man.
Yeah.
So we're at this one place that from the outside doesn't really look like it should be haunted. However, when you walk in, you just get that really tight feeling on your chest. So we start the investigation. Two people that I'm with, they're looking in one of the bedrooms and I'm looking the other way. And they screech because they see this floating face coming towards them. And I was
Nice.
like, whoa, I didn't see that. And they took off and they were trying to gain their composure. And I said, well, let's see if I take a camera maybe and I'll walk down there with you guys and maybe we'll see if we can see something again. Maybe it's still there. Who knows? So they positioned themselves in the exact same spot that they were at and they start looking and I start walking down the hallway with the little video camera. And all of a sudden, I feel something hit me from behind and I lunge forward. And then I start feeling there's cobwebs or egg whites or something just kind of
Yeah, it's
falling
the
on my head.
worst. Yeah.
And when we went back and we reviewed the footage, it was clear as day. I was wearing a leather jacket, that it was the sound of two hands pushing me. Then I lunged forward, and then my hair was curled at the time, and you can see one of the curls starting to like lift up towards the ceiling.
It's a weird feeling when that happens.
Oh my
Right? You just, it's
It's
happened to me
worse
once. I'm
when
like, hey.
it's worse
Yeah.
when it's happening and you're watching it do that. Oh my
It would be
God, move
awful.
back. See, that's what you call an very intelligent haunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was definitely one of them. We have a UNESCO heritage site in Nova Scotia. The town is called Lunenburg. And it's a really great representation of what a historic fishing village would look like. And the town is set up in a grid system and it's all up on a hill. So it's almost like anybody who has a house in Lunenburg has, theater seating to the ocean. It's a beautiful spot, lots of brightly colored homes and things. And there's this old wedding present home, and it's called the Boscawen Inn. And there's lots of stories about the original owner haunting it. I mean, she was very possessive over it. It was her house. And when her and her husband went into some trying times, it was because he had a gambling problem and he put the house up to gamble with. So that she has this very close connection to the house, which I totally understand. She wasn't a very big woman. And, I was starting to get into dowsing rods at the time. So before we start to do the investigation, I just wanted to get a little bit more comfortable with them. And I was standing in the room with a couple of other investigators. And I said, if you can show yourself tonight, like I've heard you can, I would be very appreciative. However, I would really like it if all of us or more than one of us would be able to see you, and don't scare somebody when they're by themselves, because it was a huge place.
Right.
And the dowsing rod said yes. And I was like, okay, great. We have this nice little conversation. Everything's tickety boo.
Right.
So the night goes on. Some very strange things are happening. Also something correlating to a dream that I had the night before. So I'm starting to feel the energy ramping up. And then I'm also starting to feel like there's too many people in the room. And I just kind of said to the director, I said, do you mind if I just excuse myself from this room? I just feel like there's too many people. We're not getting the really great communication that we were getting 5 minutes ago. And he was like, no, that's fine. So I said to the other investigators, do you guys need any more paranormal equipment? I'm going to go downstairs and grab some stuff if you do. They're like, yeah, sure. So I go downstairs and I'm like, I am so brave. I'm walking down this hallway in the dark all by myself.
Look at
I
me
grab
go.
the paranormal equipment. I'm starting to go up the stairs, and the stairs, if you're at the top level, you can look all the way down through the stairs to the bottom floor. And so I'm starting to make my way up the stairs. I make it to the second or third step, and the stairs that are going down are illuminated by an exit sign. And I looked quickly and I saw like a teenage boy. And I'm like, what? Who else is here? Like, we have this whole place to ourselves. There shouldn't be a teenage boy here. And then I quickly looked again and I realized that it was a shadow person. And I was seeing this silhouette of a smaller stature. And it was just like looking right back at me, was not moving. And the fact that I saw, an illuminated wall behind it, and it was probably about 6 feet away from me. I was like, I specifically told you not to show yourself. Why are you doing this? It definitely freaked me out. Didn't go to bed that night. I needed to stay up to try to sort my thoughts with it all. But
Oh, wow.
Yeah. How does shadow people make you feel on average? Like, since that experience, are you like, what are your thoughts on what they are?
my immediate thought was, I don't want to say malevolent, but I don't want to say it was anything really good either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The first time I ever saw a shadow person was at Waverly Hills Sanitarium. And it was from a distance, and that was okay.
Right.
It was also with a group of
It's
people.
Right.
But just being up close and personal, it's a whole other experience.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It is. It's
scary.
really scary. So you both feel the same, that it's not necessarily good?
Yeah. Sorry, Michelle.
Yeah, I tend to feel that way personally, and yet there are some researchers like, oh no, they're just another type of spirit being. There's the belief that they're time travelers. There's the belief that they're extraterrestrial. Any way I look at it, I have never been in a position, and with Amelia and I working together, she'll probably tell you the same, but I have never been in a place where I've seen a shadow person that didn't feel malevolent to me. Amelia can tell you how
Oh
she
yeah,
feels.
everything stands up on the back of your neck. I've seen them in my own house. But the worst for me is the peripheral first, and then you go back and there's nothing, and you're second guessing. Am I losing my freaking mind right now because I've only had a few hours sleep? Is it, it's one of those things. And then when it's not far from you, the scariest ones for me are the ones you can see in the dark. Not the ones you see during the day. The ones that are like opaque and you can't see through it, but you can see through everything else. And you're like, what the hell? And you're shaking your head.
It's that
I've
term,
had those
it's blacker
experiences in
than
my own
black.
room, like in my own bedroom. So
That's terrifying.
it's very much so.
We have a question. We have a comment coming in. So
Hi,
we'll go there.
Tamara. Tamara asks Kim, what is the most unnerving investigation for you?
Probably the shadow person. And
Chris was like, yeah,
the shadow person was
crazy.
definitely it definitely threw me because I thought by me having this conversation at the very beginning of the night and having established this connection that something isn't going to come out and just startle one person, and then that one person who sees it as me. I definitely felt duped by that.
Right.
I did ask the rest of the team to stay in my bedroom until the sun came up, and I was having like almost the exact same conversation that you folks are having right now about like, what did it look like, and could you see through it, and what does it mean, and does it feel good? And recently somebody else on my team saw a shadow person, and she hadn't really understood my description of what the shadow person looked like. And so when I asked her, I said, so what did it really look like for you? She said, well, it was almost like static, like when you see static happening on a television screen. It's all like the black white sort of snow, and it's like fuzzy, and it's got this vibration to it. And I was like, that's exactly what I saw. And it was completely opaque, could not see through it whatsoever. It was just this silhouette of something that had no face. I could just see the shape. So that definitely threw me, even though I had seen shadow people from a distance before. That one
There's
really messed
something
with me
about
for a
being in
while.
your space, I think.
No, the
Mhm.
Hat Man,
Yes.
the Hat Man with the red eyes. Have you seen
But
that
those
one?
are, I've heard other researchers say that they find the Hat Man specifically to be an aggressor.
Extremely.
In any
And
cases that I've worked, and I hate to say the word case, but any people that I've worked with who have had shadow people experiences, whenever it's been a Hat Man, it's been like full on, they've been physically attacked.
It's almost like that impression of the hat, which people will describe in different shapes as almost like a crown of who they are with authority and level.
so does the hat tend to change in your guys' experience anyway? Does the hat typically change depending on the person's era or where they live or their society? So maybe something in, China might look different than something that somebody would see in Mexico.
Well, descriptions that I've received from different people that I've worked with over the last, couple of decades, when they describe, the shadow people, the hat is not always the same. Sometimes it's like a cowboy hat. Sometimes it's like just like a bowler hat. Sometimes, but that's the descriptions I'm being given. I personally have not seen, I've seen shadow people, lots of them. But Amelia sees the shadow people or the hat.
Amelia sees a lot of fedoras, but I think that's because that's what I associate. Sometimes I think that hat comes across because of who you are, your culture too. But a lot of people have described not the cowboy hat so much, but the Western, the
But
long
that's what I
Western.
mean. Like it's just it's a bigger
They've
hat
described that
altogether.
a lot.
Yeah.
And you'll hear red eyes a lot. If you hear yellow, you might want to call priests.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
good to know.
Angela says.
Not something you want to communicate with either way. You don't want to carry on a conversation with either one of those. And if that's just my advice.
The Q-tip head is interesting.
Q-tip head is nasty when it cocks its head to the side.
Yeah, it's sort of.
Oh, yeah. I'm just like, oh, Michelle. That unnerves me because it's like that cocking and then that all of a sudden from so far away, like right here, and it's just your whole body just freezes, so
It's that head cock. It's like, go away.
when I tell her, she's like, okay, you're okay.
I know, you're fine.
Like, bloody thing is like 3 feet away from me. But
That is absolutely terrifying.
They unnerve me. They do. I don't like to admit it because I know they can hear me and I'll probably get more of them because of this. But yeah, they do unnerve me because I know that they're stronger than the other shadows. They usually step in or mimic too. So
that question.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
No, you go ahead.
No
Go
problem.
Ahead.
You go
it's
ahead.
Not going anywhere. You go ahead.
That is one other. You just sort of jogged my memory there. The mimicking, the voice mimicking. That was something else that really bothered me when, I was upstairs doing the Estes method. My headphones are on. I can't hear a thing. And then somebody, will walkie somebody else who's close to me and say, we just heard Kim's voice come through the spirit box.
Ugh.
It's gross. It's a terrible feeling.
I've never had that happen. I can't imagine. I've had where they've mimicked my daughter's voice, but not mine.
We had that at the other house. We had a 1872 Gothic Revival Manor house, and it was haunted AF. And there was always mimicking. I'd come right into the house one day, and Wayne will say something. I'm just like, Wayne, hello. When he comes out of the back part of the house, he goes, "Oh, are you talking to me?" I'm just like, "You were talking to me." He goes, "I assure you, I was not." It was him. It was his voice. Like we've had stuff. That house is notorious for that stuff. There's lots of different stories of people who stayed over and the same idea, just hearing like voices that they're familiar with, that they know. So I think that's just, the thing.
Tricksters.
You have that experience and you'll never be skeptic again.
Yeah.
I think it keeps you on your toes, if anything. Like with me, I've spent 2 decades working only malevolent hauntings or alleged attachments. So you're not dealing with something friendly in any way. And you always have to be aware of what the possibilities are. And 9 times out of 10, I would have experiences come to my home before I even stepped foot at the location because they were well aware, like steps ahead of you. And, they knew you were coming or they knew I was coming.
Yeah.
Or I'd get a growl.
You ever have those dreams, Kim?
Sure do.
I get growled at, everything. I was in the kitchen one day and I heard like this big low growl. I'm like, nobody's talking to you.
Yeah, the best
washing
is
my dishes. Like, I don't care. Don't give it to them. Don't give it to them. Just don't, because they feed off of it.
Oh, they feed off of the fear. That's how they get stronger. The best is when they say your name and you're just like, you have to just stay strong.
It's a beautiful thing when
You
they do
can't.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're going to get back to the question now.
Yes. Tamara asks, have you come across fairies or elementals in your investigations?
I have not.
Yet.
However,
Elementals
I
are
have had an
fun, let me tell
experience.
you.
It just wasn't necessarily during an investigation.
Mhm.
I live in a relatively new house. It's about 15 or 16 years old, but the land is obviously old, but
Right.
it wasn't it was an old farm. So
Right.
it was a farm about 225 years ago. And not that I ever feel that my house is haunted, but I feel something with the land. Like when I moved here, I felt that I needed to say, hi, I'm Kim. I live here now. Please accept that I live here now. I promise I will take care of your property, the house. Like I just kind of had this open conversation.
Mhm.
And as I was gardening one day, I just looked up and there was this little tiny bright light that was floating that was clearly not an insect. And it just kind of like floated around me. And then I kind of watched it go up and down and around. And then it just disappeared. And I thought, okay, that was something different. That was not a
Don't
bug.
speak to it.
No,
say, never talk to them.
No.
But it's not uncommon for farms for the land to be active. I mean, you going back
Especially if you're
that
guarding.
far, you have to realize that back in the day, the only thing that made you someone was if you were land wealthy. That was one thing. Your land sustained you. Chances are you were born on the land in many instances. You had crops, or you had, cattle, or you had to cut wood to stay warm. You had to use everything the land gave you just to survive, whether all 4 seasons. And if you died on the land, you were buried on the land. You're not going to give up the land that easily.
Right.
Especially not a fairy.
Yeah, I mean,
you'll be out before a fairy goes anywhere.
Out east, though, I mean, those are harsh times. Like,
yes,
because back then you're pretty isolated.
Well, you had all those plagues and potato famines and all that other stuff,
everything.
and all the immigrants. I mean, my parents came through Pier 21. My uncles.
Did they?
Yes. Yeah. I have photos of the ships that they came in on, and that is one place that I will go to visit.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely want to. Oh, definitely. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't come there and not say hi.
Oh, I would love to show you around.
I think Nova Scotia is the gem of Canada.
I've got friends there, lots of friends.
Nova Scotia and even PEI, but Nova Scotia is, I feel like it's the heart of, your province is the best of us.
That is seriously so kind of you to say.
No, it's true. I mean, think about all the stuff that you have done as people during 9/11. You were taking care of all of the planes that couldn't land in the US. How many Americans you took care of? And
there's a gateway in from the East Coast, man.
No, but even even the Titanic.
It's true.
Right.
So there were so many times, and it's such a beautiful, I love the people of Nova Scotia. I just love them. And sometimes I think I've been there. I may have lived there a long time ago because I long so much to see it.
Right.
Not Oak Island. Yes, I said it. But Nova Scotia is a place that it's just got a special place in my heart. And you won't find a Canadian on this side that would say otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are really the gem of the country.
Thank you so much, Amelia.
No, thank you.
I always feel like I'm a little proud supporter of Nova Scotia myself, because a lot of the television series that we do promote small towns and smaller communities and gets out those people's stories, whether they're a business owner or, you know, a chef or what have you. So yeah, I very much love Nova Scotia, and I love just going for drives 2-3 hours and finding these little nook and cranny places and meeting the most lovely people.
Everybody's so kind. Everyone, I have family members who have been there and spent weeks at a time in the summer, and they're just like, you will not find a nicer place. I'm like, yeah, I just want to go.
Meanwhile, the rest of our Canadian fan base drops off.
No. I mean, all of Canada is beautiful, but Nova Scotia has been involved in so much extraordinary, tragic history, and have always been there for everyone who have come to that land. You can't deny that.
There we go.
Question. Hi, Faye. Faye is also a host on our network. Hi, Faye. Good to see you. She asks, is it your experience that our pets can protect us from shadow people or malevolent beings?
I would believe that. I don't think I've had any shadow people specifically in my house. Let's knock on some wood.
Hard. Especially after talking about it for an hour.
But I do definitely sense that my cats are aware if there's an energy around, whether I can see it or not. But I always feel protection from my pets. Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think so as well. And I also think on the flip side of that, pets tend to be targets. I know when we work with families, we always want to see photos of the pets because they can't speak for themselves. And many of them end up having attachments, or they're getting picked on a lot. And because they can't just say, hey, there's something going on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So they're natural psychics. Animals see literally everything. In fact, there are some researchers who will bring animals, dogs, obviously, a little bit more convenient, to investigations.
Yes, I have seen that as well. And if I still had a dog, I probably would test out that theory as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't do that to my dog.
It would be tough. Well, it depends, I think, on the situation. If you're knowingly going into a really malevolent place, you may want to reconsider.
There's a lot of really benign things, it depends where. Yeah, you're right.
For sure.
You're right.
Sure.
Yeah, and Tamara says pets can give information on paranormal information.
I want to go back to this crazy Q-tip head because Angela's like going right to town on this thing. So I'm just going to put up her comments. Can you get this so our audio people can hear it, Amelia? Can you see it?
I can see her comment.
Yeah. I just want to put.
She said the Q-tip shadow. Right. She says it has peeked around a corner, then moved up the hall. Not okay. No, it's not okay. We have the mimic tried to look like my kids, but gets the details mixed up.
Oh, see, that's normal.
That could be T.
That's awful.
It's true. And it keeps going.
Yeah. We see it and hear it giggling. Conversation, doors opening and closing. This still happening, Angels? Scratches, because, we can help you.
Yes, this is true.
With that, if that's still happening.
Yeah,
we can help you with
pop
that.
Sucker out of there, no problem.
I know what it feels like to get scratched. It's not nice, and it burns from the inside out.
Right.
Oh, it's awful. That's when I see it on kids, I fall apart.
So that's that was an interesting bit of conversation. It's just like a Q-tip, like what the hell, man?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so that's our thing on shadow people. Okay, so we've talked about your most memorable investigation. We've talked about the creepy shadow people. What's some place that you really love to go to? that you maybe haven't been to, or a place that you've been to that you would really love to go back to? I'll leave
I
that
want to
to
hear
you.
about the boarding house too after.
Yeah. Um, Let me think about that for a second. A place that I would really love to go to. Uh I honestly like I in a lot of cases I do research about the place and I get
Right.
really excited and I want to go and then I go and I get let down. Um it's kind of one of those things that I don't realize that I'm completely in love with it until I get there. There's certain
Mhm.
feelings that you get.
Mhm.
Um there's there's a couple of places that I've gone to that I feel a strong connection to.
Mhm.
There's one in particular in a very old town, again in Nova Scotia, called Annapolis Royal.
I love
You know Annapolis
I
Royal?
know it. I do. I do. Who doesn't?
Awesome.
Because if you know your history, sorry,
Yeah,
Bubbles. Yeah, if you know your
I
history
took
and stuff,
American
what you do.
history. Smack me.
No, I'm world history, so I'm okay with it. But
Yeah,
no,
I took American history in high
that's
school.
a really old area. Like it's beautiful.
it is. It's so beautiful. And there's this little inn across the street from the fortress and the graveyard. And it's called the Garrison House Inn. It's reportedly haunted by a little girl named Emily.
Mm.
And before I went to the location, I had a dream. And I think in the dream, after sort of decoding it, I was having her point of view. So I was sitting on the stairs, not very tall, looking out towards the front door, and the front door closes. And when the front door closes, it reveals a man standing behind the door like this. And he's got slicked back hair and he's just looking at me and he's really angry. And in my dream, I said, "You're not supposed to be here." And he just scowled at me and then I woke up.
Mm.
So I went to the location, had never been there before. The dream and the reality of this front door was exactly the same. And I just kept picking up on this man who seemed very cold, very stern, didn't want anybody messing around.
Mm.
But I really tried hard to communicate with this little girl. And immediately we were getting things that were close to her name, not necessarily Emily, but more along the lines of Amelia, actually.
I was going to say it wasn't me.
It wasn't you. Um, so anyway, as the night progressed, I was doing things to, give Amelia or Emily a little bit of trust in me. So I would leave things out for her that were like hair ties or bows.
Yeah.
I left out my hairbrush and a little tube of lipstick, and I told her I'd brush her hair. And we weren't really getting a whole lot of activity on a couple of pieces of equipment until I brought out the hairbrush. And I was asking her how tall she was. And so I was, stroking the brush through the air. And I was like, "Are you this tall? Am I getting your hair? I'm sorry, I can't see you." And then I'd go a little bit higher. And when I got to about the age of around, 10-ish or so, a fairly taller girl, that's when everything just started going crazy. So the next day I woke up, I was like, "I'm going to go out for brunch." Left my room. There was a coffee maker and everything in the room. When I returned, the stir sticks, there was a bunch of stir sticks in a different coffee cup. They had been completely toppled over. So there was like 100 stir sticks on the floor.
No.
So that to me was like, okay, she wants to play. But after talking to somebody who actually watched the show Haunted, which is what I'm on, she said, "Kim, you described my grandfather perfectly. He grew up in that
Oh,
house." And I was like, "Wow, that's
that's
impressive." And she
cool.
said,
That's
he used to
nice.
stand
Yeah.
behind the door and wait for all the kids to come home, and he didn't want them outside messing around or anything like that. So she validated that for me. So I do feel quite a close connection to that place.
That's nice.
Yeah, but I also
Well,
feel like I need to go to protect Emily because I don't know if this other guy has this hold on her, and I don't feel like he belongs there. I think he came over from the graveyard across the street.
Send us a picture.
we can do that.
We can do that.
We can move them.
I love it. Okay.
We
pull
can move
right
them.
out.
Just send a photo and we'll just rip them out.
We'll pop them right out.
Not that
Nicely.
harshly. Well, it depends on how he behaves, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it was once his house, but I don't know. It's just a very odd feeling. And
They hang on. Either way. See, I'll ask you this too, because I mean, everybody, all of our listeners, and we have like millions of listeners, just so you know, they know our stance on this, but I like to ask it and get opinions.
Mm-hmm.
So just because you brought it up, remember it was you. You started this.
Okay.
Okay. You opened this door. No. What is your stance as an investigator when you know, especially with a child, that child is perhaps stuck? Do you feel like, should I move this child on? Should I leave this child? Or a spirit that may just be lost and wandering? I know it's a tough one because you have your pros and cons with that.
Yeah. There was an instance where I was involved in an investigation where somebody who I wasn't sure had the ability to cross somebody over just did.
Mm.
And it was a little girl. And I felt wrong about that.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't really know why. I felt like it maybe wasn't her place to do that. Like we were just, stumbling upon this location for a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't want to cross, they won't cross.
Mm-hmm.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. I feel like if it is somebody who I know their credentials, I know their heart, I know them really as a person, and that it's coming from a genuine place instead of a place to get maybe ratings on television.
Oh, now that's a whole other.
Yeah,
that's also
so
a whole other thing.
I just feel
understand
wrong
that.
about that one situation.
Do we
Honestly,
sure if they did cross them though?
I'm not sure.
So that's the whole thing. When you cross them and they ascend, they can come back. So you're giving them the
without
choice.
the baggage and the pain.
Without the baggage, the pain, the fear. And I look at it as if that child, because it's a disembodied voice that you're getting, it's a person, it's a soul.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to move on. But if it wants to come back, you can come back and you can have in out and go visit your family. They can do whatever they want. But if they're stuck there. It's like being in a dark room. And think about how many hundreds of years some of them have been there.
Yeah.
Well, plus if you have something really, some interdimensional or dimensional beings, aggressive beings, they sort of hold these human spirits hostage
for food.
And I know that because I've worked so many locations through the years, and I've gotten voice recordings of children, just saying help, like, or he's coming, and then you just and then you hear, I'm just like, oh, it tugs at me as a parent. My children are little, but it tugs at me.
Yeah, because if that was a child in physical form next to you, you wouldn't walk away from that child. That's how I look. That's how I see it. And I would want someone to help. God forbid my daughter got stuck. I would want someone to help her. But the best part of this, without feeling like you interfered, is knowing that they can come back.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I've learned something from you guys. It's certainly not a field that I have ever practiced or ever had an experience like that myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like, leave it up to the professionals.
I understand why you felt that way though.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes even like I've said to just people who had spirits in their homes, just gently explain that they passed on and that they should not fear, whether it's the light, whatever it is that they see that they may fear. Because let's face it, back in the day, spirits would be afraid. I think we're conditioned through religious belief systems. You're going to hell if you took your own life. Well, no, Not really, but you have to look at the frame of mind the individual was in. This is where the logic comes in. That spirit's still going to be in the same frame of mind. It
Yeah,
doesn't
you'll
change
hear
just
I
because the
am
body
not.
stops working,
You'll hear them
right?
say I am not worthy.
Exactly.
And that's when you know, okay,
Or,
this is a religious thing.
if you're getting into, the God-fearing people, oh, I lied, I stole, I coveted my neighbor's wife, I'm going to hell.
Right.
I'll take my chances and stay here. So you may have a spirit that's like, nah, I'm okay, I'm not going. It's like, all right.
Or you could have a child spirit that's being held back by something malevolent and is mimicking one of their past loved ones. And they don't know that they're not with Nana or mom or an uncle or their
Sometimes they never
sibling.
even see each other. I've seen
Yeah.
spirits from the same family, and they're not the passes don't even cross. Like, where do they end up?
Yeah. No, you guys bring up a really good point too. I've been in circumstances where I felt that a husband and wife who passed at different times
Mm,
couldn't connect.
it's
Mhm.
And
sad, eh?
for
It
a few
happens though.
moments felt like we bridged them.
Mhm.
It's
Nice.
really very cool. Yeah.
That's beautiful. You
That's
can
so
feel love
rewarding.
in the room.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there's this beautiful mansion about an hour away from here. And it's called the Mounts Mansion, and people call it the honeymoon house. And this man and his wife, they traveled the world right after they got married, and they were picking out things for their new home. It was actually one of the
Mm.
very first homes in Nova Scotia to have power. And anyway, so yeah, they brought back all this really cool furniture from everywhere. They went to
Mhm.
France, they went to Africa, they got all these really cool things. And so each of their rooms, when they got back, had a certain theme to it. And still beautiful home. It's been lovingly restored, so it's still relatively, for the most part, looks the way it did.
Mm.
Hand painted wallpaper. It's just a great spot.
Mhm.
Now his wife, very shortly after they got married, they lost their daughter, and then
Oh,
she got tuberculosis and was
Oh
sent to
no.
New York for treatment and never returned. And so he would wait for her in the window by their bedroom for her to come home. And back in the day, the communication was mostly by letters. So
Oh.
he would wait for a letter. And anyway, she never returned. So he lived in the
Oh.
house to be quite an old man. And yeah, I felt really, really special that we connected the two of them, because it was like he was still looking for her and she was still waiting for him, but they were like on completely different planes.
that is
That's
so.
so sad.
It's a happy ending,
I
but it
know.
is sad because it happens more than you think. Children waiting for their parents who maybe have moved on, or like you say, loved ones who they don't even ever connect, even though the same space, but not the same time or not the
Yeah.
same dimension. Oh,
That's really sad.
yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
heartbreaking.
All right, we have to do the work part of our job now.
Yes, and we love them.
This is the fun part. Yeah, so I'll have Amelia, you can do the sponsor and station ID. Then I have to play a couple of the podcast awards things. We already played the Outer Realm Podcast Award
Yes. It
promo.
opens Saturday.
That's it. So
It
we already
opens
played
Saturday.
ours because it's our show. So we have to play some of the other ones now, though. So
We got to be good
go ahead.
neighbors.
We do.
We have to be good neighbors. So I'll take it.
Apparently.
Thank you. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 105.3 and 107.7 FM. And we are currently live on Roku and archived. So if you're watching us from Roku, welcome. If it's your first time, please make sure to share with your friends and family. Our fabulous guest tonight is Kim Moser, and she is talking all about the paranormal, and she is an upcoming speaker at the Halifax Paranormal Symposium, which is really cool. But she's telling us so many amazing stories, and if you missed it, don't worry about it, because you can stream our archives on any platform that you normally use. And there's about 250 that we do stream on. And again, don't forget to tell your friends. Okay. A huge thank you to the amazing people at Folgers Coffee for sponsoring our show from the beginning and continuing to sponsor us. We love and adore you, and we couldn't be here without you. Thank you so very much. Shout out and thank you for our intro and outro to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, award-winning composer and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp, and check him out on Facebook and Instagram, where he is daily dropping clips of his music. You can play his music on anywhere that you normally stream as well. Now, if you are watching us on Facebook or YouTube, please don't forget to give us a like, hit that subscribe button, and again, share with your friends, or Tamara's coming for you.
There we go.
Blame it on Tamara.
I know. Okay, so we'll play a couple of these, and then we'll finish them up when we're done. So you heard ours. Now we're going to hear our grand poobah, Joe Montaldo.
All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. Yes, it is that time of year again. There's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards, UFO Undercover, in the category of entertainment. UFO Undercover brings you some of the most revealing and current research that is being done with respect to alien abductions and contact. Host Joe Montaldo has been an abduction researcher for over 35 years and is uniquely qualified to bring you live interviews with some of the most well-known researchers in ufology. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate UFO Undercover in the category of entertainment. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and get out and vote now.
One more.
Hey there. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The News on the Flip Side, in the category of politics and news. News on the Flip Side is a much different news and political program which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as Joe Montaldo brings to you just the facts from trusted sources, which will allow you, the people, to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate News on the Flip Side in the category of politics and news. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and do it now.
Now, I like that.
I'm not the only one who thinks Joe's been photoshopped. Saying
it.
Like, why weren't we photoshopped?
I know.
Yeah, Joe has been beautified. Yes, Tamara, I think so too. He didn't respond when I asked him if he was photoshopped. Ron Watson, who is listening to us all the way from Scotland.
It's 3:25 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah,
you're champ, Ron. Just saying.
We love seeing you in the chat room.
Yeah.
Can spirits who, as people, sorry, losing my voice, lived in different centuries meet in the spirit world?
That's a very good question. I'm still trying to navigate the waters of reincarnation and how that all works, and if there's a specific time that people are destined to reincarnate, or if it's more of a soul's educational time to come back to Earth. So
let me know when you get there.
Yeah,
really I don't know.
To say.
Yeah.
I think in the spirit world per se, it's possible. I think as much as spirits don't see each other, I think you can have spirits who've never known each other come together. You see it in haunted locations all the time. People from different centuries who haunt an area. Sometimes they see each other, sometimes they don't, right? Moving on beyond that, though, again, you're getting into reincarnation. I wonder if a lot of that has to do with current belief system. Because
I think it does.
Yeah. Because if you're a Buddhist, everybody reincarnates, right?
Yeah, I would open up a spirit box and ask the question. Ask the spirits.
Take a shortcut. Ask the
spirit
box.
Always.
I know.
That's what a medium is. A medium is a shortcut.
It is. It's true.
Right.
You don't have to worry about equipment with me, just pizza. But
Okay, we have another question. There we go.
okay. Hi, Adrian. Good to see you. If a spirit stays due to being attached to a location, do you think some can come and go at will, or are they permanently stuck once they made that choice? I am not talking about visitation from loved ones. You're talking about haunted places.
Yeah. I think that if somebody is at a location haunted, it is dependent on the nature as to why they're there. Was it a traumatic event, or was it something that they, in their sort of dying wishes, knew that they were feeling very possessive over this location, or had another living loved one that they wanted to stay for? So again, it's kind of hard to say. Maybe they come to a realization that their loved one has now passed and then it's time for them to leave. Or maybe, like we were talking about earlier, they are able to connect with a medium and see the light, lose a little bit of fear, gain a little bit of trust, and then they disappear as well. I don't think they're stuck there forever. I've gone to some locations where I have felt like, okay, I've done all my research. I know there's going to be a lady in white here. And then I get there and I'm like, I don't feel her at all. And we get no evidence saying that she's still there. So something maybe that people were reporting 20 years ago, it doesn't happen anymore.
That's a good point, because you don't know if that's dimensional or if that's something that they've ascended. And you notice everywhere around the world has a lady in white.
Yes. And
right?
Is that not affiliated with a traumatic event?
A lot of times it is. And it's
well, yeah, jumping off cliffs.
A lot. But a lot of those are replays as well. You know, they just keep going. It's a total replay. It just
residual,
yeah, absolutely.
No, you don't have time to do a show, Kim. Like, you're so good.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
No, seriously, right, Michelle? Like, even her voice or sound, everything is really good.
Oh my
I speak what I see.
You guys aren't going to be able to get rid of me now.
Yeah, you just have to come back.
We'll take you anytime. We'll do Q&A with you. It'll be fun.
That'll be fun.
Yeah,
I would love to come back. You guys are wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm telling you,
we can make that happen.
Country.
We can make that happen.
I still think you should have your own show.
You are so sweet. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. It's a pleasure. Tamara says sometimes hauntings are certain times of the year. That's true. If there's an anniversary or like wartime, I know with us here, because they reenact the stupid war of, I'm not stupid. I don't mean it that way. The reenactment is stupid. No,
really
because I have them all over my damn backyard. I don't want to go through this. But I think reenactments are horrible, especially with wars. I know that I'll get hate mail for this, but I don't care. I live on land where they were, fighting the War of 1812. I am literally 6 kilometers away from their headquarters. I know what happens to this side when they redo that reenactment. I know what happens here, the activity that happens. And I always feel like it's despair, because you have some of these wounded and dead soldiers that are coming through that are stuck and seeing this and confused.
They think they're still fighting.
They're still fighting. Yeah. And I find it horrific. So I do have an issue with reenactments at any battlefield, not just the one that I happen to live by, but I just, I don't appreciate it. It bothers me. It really does.
Which will lead me to this question. Living out on the East Coast, there were, and this is where they came into this country. And then, Quebec is where a lot of people settled in once they came in from the East Coast. But you guys have a lot of history that goes back to even the 1300s, the Vikings, and the 800s and 900s. Have you ever been to any of those locations and communicated with historical people? No?
There's one location, and Amelia, I'm sorry, but I love Oak Island.
Yeah, I'm sure the island's beautiful.
It's the show.
I hear it is. Yeah, I hear it is. Yeah.
Pardon?
Is it the show that bothers you?
I've never watched a full episode. It's the people that bother me.
Yeah. So
I'm sure it's gorgeous.
The island is incredible.
Yeah.
my husband and I, we have a boat at Oak Island Marina. So it's a very short distance from the marina. You wake up in the morning on the boat and you see the island. But that is an island
Oh,
that
it's beautiful.
when you step on it, you feel that
Yeah.
there is something of tremendous, significant. I want to say it's religious. Like there's something that is so spiritual and
Mhm.
connected to that island, and
Mhm.
it's an intense feeling. So whenever
that-
they find something, if they do find something, I think I know that it's going to be some sort of relic. It's going to be
Right.
cool.
Right.
However, on that show, they did have a carving that they believe is like a runic carving that is further down on the most southern tip of Nova Scotia and Yarmouth.
Mhm.
And I went there and I loved it. I
Right.
didn't necessarily feel anything spiritual, not a whole lot of energy with it, but
Mhm.
it was a very cool experience.
Right.
I've been doing a little bit of research on some locations that I would like to go. So I don't know why I was stumped earlier when you guys asked the question if there was a place I would like to go.
Right.
But
Right.
Lanso
Timing.
Meadows, which is in
Timing.
Newfoundland, it's kind
Yeah.
of, they think it dates back to like the 1100s.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
and that would be a very cool spot. And the more research I did, I found out that there are ghost stories attached to it. And it's not a very typical thing that people talk about when they're talking about that location in itself. But there was this lady who said that her grandfather, um, it was a foggy day. Him and somebody else could hear this chant, and they could hear something that wasn't necessarily their dialect. And then as it kind of got closer, they could hear the oars going through the water. And they could hear this language, and they were like, this isn't a language that we understand. So then they started thinking, oh, maybe that's Viking, but why are they saying it right now? And so when the timing happened where this little boat or large boat, I don't know, the oars were happening, they kept hearing it get closer and closer. So they thought it would be there and it never showed up. And they do say that it happens on, I think it's June 23rd every year. So there you go. There's another annual thing.
And you
or a
missed
certain
it
time of
this
the
year. And you missed it.
I missed it.
I
Yeah.
know, you missed
You've
it.
got to
One
put a
next
note
year.
on your
more
calendar
trip
for
around the
next year.
sun, and you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it
I'd
on
like
for
to
next
go,
year. You
but
should
damn, I missed it.
You should
Yeah, exactly.
investigate that. Now, the island, they only own part of it, don't they?
I think at this point, the Blankenship family still owns 1 or 2 lots, but the rest of the lots are owned by the Lagina brothers.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
there was
I didn't know that.
a recent acquisition. I think it was lot number 5 that happened last year. That was the last one.
So how do you get on this island? I thought they blocked all roadways over there.
They do. You just have to go in the middle of the night. No, I'm just kidding.
In a boat.
You did
at a
not hear
marina.
that.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I know they have security there, so you wouldn't get very far.
Yeah.
No, I had the opportunity of one time I went with a friend who his father was a Mason, and they had a very special Mason's Day, Freemasons Day, where they could bring friends and family to take a private tour of the island. And that was probably around the 2nd or 3rd year that they started doing the show.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I went for that, which was great. It was a wonderful experience. And then I have a couple of friends who do some stuff on the show, one being one of their divers. And he asked if I would help him do some filming one day. So I have my commercial captain's license, and I was able to work on one of the chase boats or crew boats or
Nice.
dive boats.
Oh, good for you.
And
Yeah.
for lunch, they drop you off on the island. So
Nice.
I gotten to spend a little bit of time there. So it's great.
Yeah.
That's good and wonderful. I love the history about it. I love the indigenous history
Yeah.
as well. I mean, there's some phenomenal indigenous history,
You're right.
on that island that I think a lot of it gets overshadowed, and historical figures that came through, the region and stuff. It's just really interesting.
That's a
But
concern for
I think you
me.
just focus so much on the obvious, what's in the pit and where is it? That everything else gets overshadowed,
For me, Oak Island is don't touch it, leave it, you're raping it. I feel like it's so intense, it has to be left alone. That's why I have so much anger. It's not that I don't
They
like
may
it. I
never
think
find
it's
anything for
beautiful,
that reason.
but
Who
they're
knows?
raping that land in the meantime. And I feel like everything is in its place for a reason. It's
Right.
just one of those feelings. Some archaeological digs I love, and some I'm like, you need to put that back. You need to.
Right.
It's just the spirit side in me that's saying this
Mm.
was a mistake. You need to bury this. This was not
Mm.
supposed to come up. Right? Things like that get to me. Like I said, I've never watched an entire episode. I've seen clips, and that was it.
Mm.
And I saw them try to do the Templar one in the UK.
Question.
Okay. Adrian says, I have heard that people who mourn someone excessively can make a deceased loved one stuck, weighing them down somehow. Is that true, or is the spirit staying to try and comfort?
Double-edged sword there. Have at her, Kim. You're the guest. You go first.
Okay. I don't know. I feel, I mean, I can't tell you for certain. I can't tell you any of this for certain. But I feel that if a loved one is coming back to console the person who is upset and still living, I feel like they have the ability to come and go at that point. I often like to think that people directly go to the other side, and that, something a little bit more traumatic than a living person wanting them to stay around would do. I've had a lot of loved ones pass, and ones that it's been very sad for me, but I feel like they come and they go. I don't feel like they necessarily stick around.
I think it might be different, because I agree with you 100% on that. I think if they're stuck, it might be a different story, though. Maybe,
but they're not stuck because of their
no,
family.
no.
That's what she's asking.
There was one case, one family. I was asked to consult with a family. I was filming one day, and the family member came over. She goes, "I need to speak with you." I went, "Okay." I went across the street. Their daughter had tragically died at 13 in a pool accident.
Oh my gosh.
And all of a sudden, the whole family, well, I'll say the parents mostly, mom, all of a sudden the vehicles were shut. So they locked them up. They never drove them again because they had her scent. Her room was locked up. They everything about this young girl was locked in time, and she was there trying to comfort her family. And her question to me was this: it wasn't, is my daughter stuck? It wasn't, can you help her? It was, I want to make sure the spirits of that house aren't bugging her.
Oh, interesting.
I was very interesting, because it was a really malevolent house across the street, so it would have been a possible thing. And I just remember saying, well, your child is staying here because of your grief. Like she's bonded to you, and you're not letting go. I said, what happens when you go? You're not even gonna be able to see her then. She may miss the boat. Well, we'll make sure that somebody stays here. She has siblings. There'll always be somebody here for her. I said, how unfair.
Yeah.
Well, that's very unfair.
Yeah.
Within about 5 years, it's like a light went off, and the house was sold. The vehicles were sold. Everything was sold. And the daughter moved on, and then the family seemed to move on. It was just, that's how long it took for that grieving
That's a
process.
traumatic way to lose a child.
Yeah.
Losing a child is traumatic.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Absolutely.
when someone's sick, you let them go if you're there while they're dying.
Yeah.
But when it's, all at once.
That's what I'm saying. So it's sort of a double-edged sword with the question, because I completely agree with Kim. Your loved ones, I mean, when they pass on, they can come and go at will. They will stick around. I truly believe they come and they comfort us. I watch it with my own mom. I lost her a couple of months ago, and she was doing all kinds of things. There's no doubt that she was here, and a lot of it was to comfort me. And, and I know that she still comforts other family members, but I'm more okay with death. Not that I don't grieve it, but I just do it differently. And I can see, I guess, some really hardcore people grieving. I'd be worried about the other things grieving can bring in because of the energy.
Just that dark sadness.
Yes.
Oh yeah. When I lost my dad, you were working overtime. When I lost my brother suddenly, he had his aorta bursted. It was like an aneurysm in his heart. It was the day before his wife's 50th birthday. He was 51.
Oh my
When
God.
I lost him, that suddenly, and there's 18 years between us. There's also 4 children between us. But he was my best friend. I feel like I held him here for a long time because I could, which was the most selfish thing I could have done. But I had so many questions, so many questions about the way he died, where he died. But that also comes from a criminal thought process in my head.
Right.
So it depends. It's hard. I believe that our energy can hold something back, but not because they're there to comfort you. That comfort comes after they've ascended. If there's unfinished business, they're going to stick around for you to try and get a message to you.
That is a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful story as well. And yeah, I like the way that you worded it too. You're like, it was selfish, but in the time and because of your career and your inquisitive nature, you were probably, there was a little bit of you that was like, I do this for other people all the time. And this is the closest thing to me.
Then.
So
everybody grieves differently, and there's no time limit.
I didn't grieve him for 6 years. I literally didn't grieve for 6 years, and then I fell apart.
Wow.
So I was 32 when he died, 33. So, and I was 27 when my mom died. So yeah, it was just 6 years later. It was just too much. I needed answers. And I think when you need answers, you can actually hold that, especially if you know how to communicate with that energy. You can pull that forward and hold it and not even realize you're doing it. So I think when a loved one passes away, the kindest thing we can do is say out loud, I love you and I know that you need to move forward, but please come back to me. I have some questions.
Yeah.
Just let them know that it's okay. But Adrian asks, I wonder if blood or DNA anchors a spirit. That's an interesting question.
I've never heard of that connection.
No.
Reasoning.
The last investigation that I did, I asked the same question.
Did you?
Well, this is meant for you then.
And tell us.
Yeah, I feel like in this instance, it helped for us to pick up on energy. The place that we were investigating used to be a dental office until 1930. And just because of the way we felt, so there's 3 rooms on the top floor. And in one room in particular, we felt this like really anxious energy. And we kind of wondered if maybe we were picking up on the energy of maybe a patient, because back in the day, we all knew that the dental tactics weren't as modern as they are today.
For sure.
So we kind of wondered if maybe we were picking up on that anxiety and the weird energy from, blood being soaked into the floorboards, wood being porous. I know sometimes people will say that if you touch, really old stone, whether it's a really old building or something, you can feel the energy coming from that as well. So
absolutely,
it's a possibility.
I agree. I agree with you.
Absolutely.
When I was in Gettysburg, they had bloodstained wood from a resident who lived in this specific home who was shot. And the energy that came in, they had everything in a showcase. You could still feel the energy off that thing.
Right.
Like, I mean, let's look at it this way. Can you imagine? I mean, think about how energetic we are now. People can project energy like puberty, menopause alone,
Right.
can psychokinesis up the yin yang. Okay. So just think of the amount of energy we can project as living people. Can you imagine how much energy you would release upon passing and releasing from the body in that one time and space.
Yeah.
I would think that would be intense.
Yeah.
Oh,
Definitely.
Especially if it wasn't peaceful.
Oh yeah. If you have a murdered victim and you bring a psychic medium in and she just kneels down, puts her hand on that, there's going to be images coming rushing at her.
Mm.
That holds a lot. It can sometimes even tell you the story and show you like a film that this is how she came in, this is when this person was wherever, and you get all these details just by something
incredible.
like that. Yeah. It's phenomenal, but it's also scary. It's trying, exhausting,
Yes.
draining. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of psychic mediums that can do that. And it
I
takes
love
a lot
that.
of
I love how
strength.
you describe that, Amelia, because when I start talking about some of the very vivid dreams that I have, it's like I'm watching a movie.
Yeah.
Mm.
Those are premonitions and psychic dreams. They're definitely.
Yeah. And then I went to a medium the last time I was in New Orleans, and she just kind of looked at me. I've had a couple of mediums say this to me, and I haven't quite figured it out yet, but she said, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's a funny question. I'm not really sure. What are you picking up on?" And she's like, "I feel like there are thousands and thousands of people waiting at the gates to talk to you. They don't know you, you don't know them. And there's this man that's standing there, and it's like he's taking numbers."
Oh, I love that.
And
These
she
are all
said,
investigations and
"It's so cool,
dreams.
right?"
That is really awesome.
And then she went on to say, like, "Are you sure that you're actually getting enough sleep when you go to sleep?" And I was like,
No.
well, now that I think of it, there's
I
other
wake
people
up
that are
tired after
communicating with
10
me, and
hours.
she's
What's
like,
up with that?
"You need to, like, set up a boundary to say, this is my time. You can't do this all the
True.
time. It's okay to do it every now and then." But she's like, "I don't know that you're getting enough rest and that you're always, like, the beacon's always out there." Like, that's cool.
But that's actually what you should be doing because I've worked with young adolescents who have been in that situation because of that light we spoke about earlier and the dead that keep wanting to come in. But this young girl, one girl that comes to mind specifically was 15, and they would never let her sleep, and they would bother her during the day. So finally, I worked with her and her family on putting together a boundary schedule. I said, these are the hours. Like I said, you're going to have, and this isn't going away for you. You are like through the roof, like full on medium. I said, you just explain to them that you spend 2 or 4 hours a week or whatever you want to do, once an hour a day, like an hour every other day, but you stick to the boundaries and you say, I'm not going to hear your message and I'm not going to listen if it's outside of these days. This is my next day. This is my next time. And it worked so well for the family that everything in the house stopped. And she would sit there with a pen and paper and she would take names. She would say what they wanted to say. She would take it in. And if, the family would help her. If it was something they could relate to loved ones, they would. If it's something they wouldn't, they would just explain, you need to move on. You're past. And it's 15.
That's incredible.
Right?
That's a lot for a 15-year-old.
It is a lot for a 15-year-old.
But she handled it really well.
Having to set up like a self-care regimen, like, I gotta exercise for an hour and this
I know.
this
Gotta
day.
put boundaries.
But
Yeah.
no, that's a really great way for, I think, people who are wanting to practice more mediumship and obviously know that they need boundaries, but to schedule those boundaries. I love that.
Yeah, it was the only way we could figure out a happy medium between the two because it wasn't like a typical haunting. They were just gravitating to this girl, and it was becoming an influx because she didn't know what she was supposed to do. She'd lash out at them, So by setting up a boundary, like I think she agreed to do 2 hours every other day, and she would do it after homework. Like she would do it after dinner. And it started like that. Then I think she went to every day for an hour or something like that through the summer months and changed up again over school hours and stuff. So she really embraced it and she did a really good job. And I ended up hearing from her and the family probably about 3 years later. And she was like really well trained at that point, grounded, meditated because she was 18 at that point, and she just embraced it and did really well with it. It's one of those really happy endings because it doesn't always work out that way. Some kids can't find that balance,
Right.
you know? I mean, heck, a lot of adults can't find that balance,
Yes.
right?
100%.
So we're getting to the top of the hour. I can't believe it already. So why don't you tell everybody what you have coming up, how people can find you, and I'm going to
Sure.
put up this
Thank you.
symposium thing right here. Oh, Elliot, are you? All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going to be partaking in the Halifax Paranormal Symposium coming up this October, which I am so excited about. I'm very excited to meet some people that I haven't met yet, and of course, people that I already know and love. And yeah, some of the people that Elliot has lined up are great. So I can't wait to just sort of sit down with them and pick their brains. But
Mm.
right now, a new series of Haunted is coming out
I
on.
love that show.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. So we have a new series coming out. I think it's coming out in the fall. I don't really know, but there's some really great stuff happening on that one. And I'm pretty active on my social media. So I'm on Instagram at Kim's Darker Side. And yeah, I always post stuff about investigations, haunted locations. And then I've also been playing around with some friends on YouTube. So we've been doing some investigations under Lamar Menz's MPNDZ on his YouTube channel. So we've had a lot of fun with that. And we're looking at doing a new location in the very near future. Their last 3 episodes that have come out, I've gotten to be a cameo on, whether I'm investigating or doing an interview with them. So
Nice.
that's been a lot of fun.
Good. Let that psychic part of you in.
Okay. Thank you for that, Amelia.
Seriously, let that part of you in. Stop
Yes,
second
because
guessing and just take it.
when we
Just
bring
take
you
what you
on
get.
next, we're going to quiz you.
No, it's just because it's there naturally, and it's just I did it. I recognize it in you because I did it for a long time. Don't let the logic mind come forward. Just take what you get. Some things will be wrong, but little pieces of the puzzle come together and give you everything you need. So just trust in yourself.
And I love how you write everything down, because if it doesn't come to you right away and you write it down, you don't know. It's coming to you for a reason, and maybe it's just something down the road.
Yeah, and there's so many, crossing thoughts that happen in the run of a day. If I don't write it down, then I won't remember it and I won't remember its significance. So, yeah,
It's
as soon as
true.
it happens and I'm awake, I need to write it down.
You're a natural.
Ah,
That's
thank
true.
you.
You're a natural.
Wow, I can't even believe we're already here. Like, where the
I
heck is this
know.
night gone? Wondering why I'm like starting to get all like hungry.
I'm feeling the same.
Right?
It's midnight. It's Friday for Kim, like in 3 minutes.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
but
true. I know. You're ahead.
thankfully, not that I ever like missing a day of work, but thankfully the rain is holding off filming tomorrow, so we've had to reschedule so I can sleep in.
Good for you.
I
It was
know.
meant to be.
Yeah, good for
I know.
you.
I love it. I love it.
Make sure Elliot, and I'm going to remind him when he comes on. He's coming on the 19th with
Yeah, it's
Daryl.
coming on with Daryl.
Make sure they videotape
Good.
everybody speaking because I want to see them.
Awesome, will do.
Yeah, Chris, we've interviewed quite a few times before he even accepted the paranormal.
I know. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Chris is
Yeah,
a sweetie.
he's great.
He's coming back on as well. He's just a sweetheart. But I will be in touch with you, and we will look, at another date, and we will go from there. And I'll let you know what our numbers are like tonight. Everybody kind of says, "Oh, that's kind of cool." So you don't realize the international live listenership that we have is audio. This is why we like to read things off,
YouTube
because we
is
actually
not
have more audio being an FM station than we have like on video. So I don't like to say that before the show because some people just come on and go, "You'll be
Right,
fine.
yeah.
You'll be fine, I promise." You know? Just like hanging out with friends. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you very much, and I will be in touch. And I hope you have a terrific Canada Day weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much.
Enjoy.
Sending
Have
lots
so
of
much
love
fun.
and light your way.
Thank
You too, honey. You
Back
take
at
care.
you.
We'll
Thanks.
chat
Alright.
soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good
Bye.
night.
Wow. So, guys, we've come to the end of another excellent segment. She's just a sweetheart. So, big thank you to Kim Moser for joining us this evening. She's a breath of fresh air and a lot of fun. Also, big thank you to Folgers Coffee, who sponsored tonight's show and every night's show. Big thank you to Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker, the sonic surgeon. Next week, we are welcoming the return of our friend and colleague, because Dolly Saffron and Preston Dent have a show called The Light Gate every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. It's excellent. They have great guests. And she's got a few things that she wants to discuss, and she's saving it to discuss on our show with all of you. Also, Thursday night, we welcome the return of our dear friends and colleagues, also the hosts of Nocturnal Frequency Radio, Steve Genier and Alex Ronaldini. Be prepared for a night of paranormal discussion and a whole lot of freaking shenanigans. That's all I'm going to say.
A lot of burrito talk. That's all I'm saying.
Burrito talk. God, no burrito
Friends,
talk.
so you'll love it
Anyway.
if you've never seen them on. We've had them on before. We're all four of us are friends, so
yeah,
it's
they're
a lot
really,
of fun.
really great guys, and they're a lot of fun. But we're going to leave you with our last promo for the podcastawards.com. So sit tight, and we'll see you guys next week. And if you're in Canada, happy Canada Day on Saturday. Have a safe long weekend. To all of our friends in the US, July 4th, Tuesday, same thing applies. I know you're all flooding into Canada right now. I see you all. Anyway, it's a nice 5-day long weekend for many of you. So be safe and have a good time. Alrighty, here we go.
It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast. In 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. For 4 years, the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast has provided advice and tips from international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest judges and winners, and industry professionals based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard to help the aspiring writer and artist no matter their age. It is dedicated to the future of storytelling and art by showing that it is never too late to start, and those who make it are those who never give up. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in any or all of the 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and go out and vote now.